Good morning. Good morning. I didn't know Reverend Sandy Scott was here. Yeah. Well, I'm on the spot here now with Sandy Scott here, right? Something there rhymes. I've just come back from being in Albuquerque, and I had the pleasure last Sunday of attending the service up at the Rio Grande Center for Spiritual Living, where Reverend Martha Quintana is the director. Picked up a couple of things there, including this big fat book at the bottom here that I might talk to you a little bit about. At any rate, it was a wonderful experience, and any of you that travel to Albuquerque, I recommend that you go there and check it out. So the moment is the theme for this month. We can drag the moments out. You know, I'm going to speak for, 20 moments myself up here, I guess. We're dragging the moments out. So I was thinking about the ways we kind of express the moment or talk about the term or the word the moment when I was preparing for this talk. And I thought about how we take a moment, how we spend a moment, how we steal a moment. Can you find a moment? Excuse me, all the expressions that we have in our vernacular that use the word moment, that we would look at it as though it were a thing, you know, that time is a thing somehow or another, an entity. If you lost a moment, did you find a moment? Can you, all of that about the moment. And then I was thinking too about things that we talk about in our vernacular, the divine moment, the healing moment, the teaching moment. Those are descriptors that we have for the term moment as well. So this is part of what I was exercising through my mind as I was thinking about, well, what would be the title of my talk? And I decided that the title of my talk is going to be the moment. The moment is your theme. And so I'm going to say the moment is opportunity. So I want to talk about how we incorporate the moment as an opportunity for experiencing and expressing our divinity, for understanding, and that's just short enough to be like right in my eyes. I don't know about you guys, but is that better? Yeah. I just realized you can't see probably, like there's this thing in the middle of my face or whatever, because I'm looking at it too. Sorry about that. You can cut that out, right, Randy, of the video. And then this past week while I was in Albuquerque and now here in town, I've been asked to watch for a moment. And I've been asked to watch my baby grandson for a moment, which usually trends into more than a moment. But my daughter says, can you watch the baby for a moment? Because that's what I went to Albuquerque for, was to help her out with watching the baby. And now she's here for a long weekend. We're celebrating my mother's 94th birthday this weekend. And even this morning when she had promised, I'm not going to bother you, it was like, can you watch him for just a moment? I've got to, But I realized that my watching was much more than just watching, that there was an observation of it, and an observation of him and me with him. And I recognized as I was working through that, this is the expression of divine in him and in me, and in each moment that we're sharing together, where it will never come again. It'll never come again. And this is the day, this is the day. So I wanted to start off my talk by reading you something from this little book called Each Day, a New Beginning. Some of you may be familiar with this. This is one of the Hazelden books that goes with the 12-step program. And this last week when I was in Albuquerque, just happened to fall on August the 18th. As I was thinking about, I got to go back and speak on Sunday. It says, each passing minute is all that we are certain of having. The choice is ever present to relish the moment, reaping fully whatever its benefits, knowing that we are being given just what we need each day of our lives. We must not pass up what is offered today. Time accompanies us like a friend, though often a friend denied or ignored. We can't recapture what was offered yesterday. It's gone. All that stands before us is here and now. We can nurture the moment and know that the pain and pleasures offered us with each moment are our friends. The teachers our inner selves are awaiting. And we can be mindful that this time, this combination of events and people won't ever come again. They are the gift of the present. We can be grateful. We miss the opportunities the day offers because we don't recognize the experiences as the lessons that they are designed for the next stage of our development. The moment's offerings are just, necessary, and friendly to our spiritual growth. And so it is. So she talks in here about we miss the opportunities that the day or the moment offers. I know that's true for me. I don't know about you all. Last month when I was here, I talked a little bit about how we could be in the moment through the right brain and access things in our subconscious, that we could sort of bypass our conscious mind, you know, the one that's always either rehashing the past or rehearsing for the future. One of Sandy's terms, rehearsing for the future, the pain of the past, the fear of the future. And that's kind of how we lose the moment. That's how I lose those opportunities of the moment, I know, in my world. And as I always say, I'm up here speaking for me, and if it works for you, that's great. But I know for me that I miss many, many opportunities in my life, and I probably missed some with my grandson this last week because I had the phone, or there was this, or there was that. There's always something that's either taking me into the future or pulling me back into the past, that in this very moment, I miss the opportunity of where and how and with whom I am. I am that I am in this very moment. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about today in respect to this idea of taking the opportunity that the moment offers is this concept of direct experience. And I don't know that we talk about that term quite often in religious science. I've learned it more from the Hindu teachings. And by the way, the Bhagavad Gita class is starting back up again in September. For any of those of you who are interested, I'll put in a plug for that. See me afterwards if you want to bid on that mailing list. The Hindu teachings are that you can have all the intellectual understanding, you can read all the books, you can know the text backwards and forwards, but if you don't have the direct experience of God in your life, then you really have not had an opportunity to become fully enlightened. So I want to read you what Ernest has to say about this idea of the direct experience of the moment. He says that this is in the text, the Science of Mind text, that it is through the teachings of the illumined, and in the previous paragraph he talked about the illumined, those same illumined ones that Doug talked about in his reading today of the mystics. So for him, the illumined ones mentioned are the Buddha, Plato, Socrates, Emerson, and Walt Whitman. So he says, it is through the teachings of the illumined that the spiritual universe reveals itself, imparting to us what we know of God. What we directly experience ourselves and what we believe that others have experienced is all we can ever know about God. So this idea of direct experience comes through the practice, you know, the practices that we involve in our daily living, the spiritual practices, the mind treatment, the prayer, the meditation. Those are all part of how we can have the direct experience that we kind of isolate and compartmentalize, and we think about that's the way we're going to kind of connect up or hook up with spirit. And we overlook that, you know, what we might spend an hour on that if we're doing good. I don't know that I'm doing an hour a day. I can practice that an hour a day. And then what are we doing with the other 23 hours? We have all those moments that those other hours represent, setting aside the sleep. Let's knock it down to 15. Let's say you got 15 waking hours that are left over. And each one of those is comprised of that moment of opportunity to see and know God, to see the face of God in everyone I meet, to understand that whatever it is that's happening in my life at the moment, no matter what I think about it or what I feel about it, it is God showing up. It is God. It is the face of God and the presence and essence of God in others, through and as them, as it is in, through, around, and as me. All of us, we are that God stuff. And I kind of forget that. Don't know about you all, but I kind of forget in those other 15 hours to sort of take this opportunity, to take the opportunity that the moment offers. One of the other things that I wanted to read you about in direct experience, I picked this book up at the used book center in the Science of Mind Center there in Albuquerque that I told you I went to last week, so I don't know if it's still in print or not, but have any of you heard of Gangaji? You know who Gangaji is? Okay. This is a part of her series of books that are from her satsangs that's called You Are That. And she talks about this idea of direct experience as well, if I can figure out where it is. If you are willing to directly experience, in this case it was sadness, the feeling, you will discover that even the sadness is not sadness. Leave behind your story. And when the feeling appears, fully experience it. Don't act it out. Don't discharge it. Do not repress it and don't deny it. Take none of those usual actions, but simply, without commentary, directly experience the feeling. So in that moment, when I'm having an encounter with a person, place, or thing, and a feeling about it or a thought about it comes up, I want to try to remember that it's not about that. It's about experiencing it. It's not about that pain of the past, the fear of the future that's coming up that my little brain's going, blah, 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 blah. It's more about, can I sit still? As the song says, in this moment, I am new, I am still. Can I sit still and just experience you as you? You as the God that is you, by the name that you call yourself, by the name that we call you, but nonetheless that you are the expression of Spirit as you. Can I take that moment, can I take the opportunity in that moment to have that experience and to know that that is my direct experience of Spirit? Although it's maybe not meditation or prayer or, it's off the cushion. Can we have this spiritual experience in our entirety of our environment? That's the challenge that I'm looking at for me in respect to that, and not attempting to alter it, but to allow it to be altered because I've surrendered to it. I've allowed and accepted whatever it is that's happening, however it is happening, with whomever it's happening, as what the gal says in the New Beginning book, that it's the lesson that the teacher is presenting, that the inner spirit in me has been waiting for that teacher to arrive. Can I allow that to be the circumstance rather than my story about it, or my story about my past or my future? Can I take this moment, the opportunity of this moment, just to be with it? We have a number of things that I think also relate to the idea of moment that are a part of this divinity. Anyone in here student of Course in Miracles? So those of us who have had some experience of the Course in Miracles have heard this term called the holy instant. The holy instant. It's not just necessarily a moment in time. It's more the flash of reflection that happens in that instantaneous situation. The holy instant being one where you have chosen, that you've deliberately chosen in the moment to decide that it's holy, and that you're holy, and that everything in and around it is holy, that you've decided to connect with Spirit, and you've acknowledged that there's no more separation, that that's part of the choice of the holy instant, is I am not separate. I am a part of you, you're a part of me. All of our interests are mutual. We share the same set of interests as godlets, as Tina calls us, on the planet, in the same environment, in the same experience. That this is who we are, not what it may appear to be. Doug read about the mystics telling us that there is only one reality, that reality isn't the one we think it is. This 3D world, this flesh, this stuff, this is not the reality of who we are, and of who any of it is, for that matter. It's all an illusion from the standpoint of our believing that somehow or another it's not transitory, or that it will stay, nothing is permanent for us. No thing is permanent, and nothing is going to fix me. No thing can fix me, as Sandy would teach. So it's about dropping that idea of separation in the holy instant, where we recognize we are one, we are all one in God, we are all one as God. And that holy instant turns us into that mystic. Ernest teaches us that the mystics are the ones who see God in everything. And I have something I could read to you about that, but I think we'll save the time. But it's about, mysticism is simply intuitive understanding that it is all spirit, always, all good, because it's all God. Just that simple, not always that easy to work with that. But that mystic moment is the same as the holy instant. What we call the mystic moment in our teachings is the same as what the Course in Miracles calls the holy instant. It's that same moment where we've taken the opportunity, where, as my grandfather used to teach me, stop to think and you'll think to stop. If I could just stop and be still for a second or so and allow it to wash over me and allow myself to embrace whatever it is that's passing on in that moment that I am still, in that moment that I am new, as they put in the song this morning. That is the newness. And that's what I was talking about last month, that the only thing new can happen through that right brain. The left brain's full of all the history. And the only newness comes in through that right brain, which is the same part of your brain that has the spiritual hookup. So we want to get into that spiritual hookup. We want to see God. We want to be mystics in the real world. I have this other book that I brought with me today. Greg Braden. You guys familiar with Greg Braden? This book is called Walking Between the Worlds. And he speaks in here about the moment being the mirror and how we can use that to begin to see and understand how and who we are being, because, again, as Sandy would say, the people I see are the people I be. That what the patterns are that are showing up, that are triggering us, he calls it a charge in this book. He uses the word charge, that the patterns that show up around what causes you to have a reaction, or what we used to say in the old days about your button being pushed. It's the same kind of thing, that that the triggers are there to mirror for us, just as we talked about in this, to show us as teachers what are the lessons that are needing to be learned. So he has this example where he says, if we are seeing in our mirrors, then what we are seeing are our current patterns. But they're happening now in this moment. And the mirror becomes our moment of opportunity. Once recognized, the patterns may be healed in a heartbeat. That's maybe hard for us to get, but we've had that happen, right? It can happen that quickly, to recognize that the pattern is a clue to the underlying source behind the mirror. And more often than not, the combination of the source is a combination of fears, is what he says there. The idea in this book, Walking Between the Worlds, is that we are in this 3D world. We're having the spiritual experience of being human, or the human experience of being spiritual, however you want to look at it. But it nonetheless offers us the opportunity in the moment to mirror back to us probably a big part of our humanness. At the same time, we're trying to connect with our spiritness, right? We want that holy moment, we want the holy instant, and we don't want this other stuff dragging us down. And yet, if we don't find a way to look in that mirror and see the reflection of who we are coming to the moment, we probably won't really be able to fully experience the moment and shift, because, again, we're stuck in that pain of the past or fear of the future. We've got that history that we're rehashing. Well, the last time somebody said this to me, or I've got to go do that. That's the stuff, the chatter in our brain that left brain is constantly harping at us with through that ego, that oftentimes needs a little repair work done. And the mirror that we see, the reflection of ourselves that we see in the mirror of others, or that we feel in the anger, the upset, the judgment that you experience in the moment, if your direct experience of the moment isn't the God experience, isn't that high, elevated, joyous vision statement that you read today earlier, that joy that you want to feel, well, what do we do? What do we do? So we have to look at the possibility that we've missed the opportunity for that part of the moment to take us into another level of spirit connectedness. And the expression of the moment for us maybe wasn't what we wanted it to be. So we choose again. It's all about the choice. The holy instant, the mystical experience, what we do in the moment with looking in the mirror is all about what we're making our choice at that time. Do I choose God aside from whatever? Or do I choose the whatever? Am I choosing the holy instant where I drop my separation and my sense of self as being separate? Or do I choose the mystic moment where I see God in everything and everyone because I know that God is everywhere? I was listening to someone this last week that was talking about the newly translated Aramaic version of the Lord's Prayer, where the new understanding of the Aramaic language says that it doesn't say our Father who art in heaven, that it says our Father who art everywhere. And I think that fits more with the concept that I have and that I've come to understand through religious science, is that God is everywhere, that it is at the center with no circumference ever. So the opportunity for the direct experience of God is available to me in the opportunity of the moment, everywhere, every how, every person, every place, everything. That the description of the moment is that it is a divine moment. It is a holy instant. It is the moment of healing. Because that's how the healing happens. It doesn't happen thinking about it. It doesn't happen necessarily even praying about it. It happens when you have that shift, that aha. That's the miracle of the Course in Miracles. For those of you who have not studied, and in the 12-step program, the miracle is defined as that shift of thought. It's not that, someone lifted the car off the baby. That's a miracle in and of itself too. But the miracle we talk about in the spiritual sense is that we're shifting our direct experience, our interpretation of our direct experience, because the reality that we've chosen, because each of us has our own individualized reality. Mine's not yours, yours not mine. We're all filtering each of our realities through our own sense of self and what our experiences have been. So if we want to change that filter, we've got to change that experience. Because our experience is always going to end up being the filter through which we see things. So I want to close by reading something to you from Ernest Holmes' writings. By the way, this big fat book that I told you about, that I bought in Albuquerque, and I don't know if they'd sell more to you guys down here or not. But this is the compilations done by George P. Bendel of Ernest Holmes' talks and his, well, I guess you'd say fairly intimate knowledge of Ernest in his later years. And because he and Ernest occupied the same dwelling, and George was his assistant, sort of, I guess we call it. Anyway, in the introduction, he's not the author, Ernest, of course, is the author, but he talks about his understanding of Ernest, if I can find the right page here. The pages in the beginning are not numbered, and I didn't mark it, sorry. Anyway, it's in here. All he says is, he talks about what a great spiritual scholar Ernest Holmes was, and yet he goes on to talk about, but the greater thing about Ernest and the thing that really made him who he was is his willingness to live his life in the direct experience of spirit, is what it says in there. So this that I want to read to you from Ernest in closing is about, connecting with that opportunity of the moment in order to create a new future. To have a new experience, to be new in the moment, as the song we sang today, and to have that newness carry through to the point where today's creation is tomorrow's new reality for us. So Ernest is, this is the Science of Mind magazine from May 2013. And the article in here by Ernest Holmes is How to Build Your Tomorrow Today. And he talks about the starting point. So I want to end my talk with the starting point. This is your homework for this next week, I guess we'd say. So the starting point is, if we make every day a day of praise and of thanksgiving, a day in which we recognize the divine bounty and the eternal goodness. And if we live today as though God were the only presence and the only power that there is, we would not have to worry about tomorrow. We are all human and we've all made mistakes, but the starting point for creating a better future for ourselves is to deliberately free our minds from the mistakes of yesterday and feel that they need no longer be held against us. They need no longer be a liability. And so we have to live each day as though it were complete and perfect within itself. And you can take the word day and make it moment, And we have to live each moment as though all the joy that there is in the universe were ours now. And we have to live each day as though all the joy we're ever able to expect to experience were ours now in this moment of opportunity. Namaste. So it is.